Good evening, wherever you are in our wonderful universe. Welcome to another episode of Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible with your host, myself, Dr. Dolores Fazzino. And we're continuing on with our Miraculous Healing series. And today we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Vicki Dello Joio. And what we're going to talk about is this how many times, I'm nursing a cold right now. And our first instinct is to like shove it away, put it on a shelf, and keep it separate from ourselves. And how often, if we shift that and embrace that and learn from what it's teaching us, it could just open another set of possibilities. And Vicki is well versed in this because she too has kind of gone through something recently, and we're going to talk more about that. But let me just share a little bit about our guest today. Vicki Dello Joio is a transformational speaker, a Quigong Master teacher, and a life-changing workshop leader. Since 1975, her brand of brilliance has empowered wellness-motivated, spiritually inclined seekers to infuse body, mind, spirit practices into their very selves so they can tap into their birthright of joy. Use it as a fuel, not a goal, for a lifetime. She's a popular host of a monthly program called Key Talks and a Hall of Fame recognized teacher of the Chinese art of Qigong by the Association of Women Martial Arts Instructors. Vicki's spiritual fitness program and book, The Way of Joy, has transformed the lives of thousands of participants. And it is my sincere pleasure to welcome Vicki. Yay! Welcome, Vicki. Thank you for
Thank
being
you so
here.
much. It's wonderful to be here, Dolores. I'm so pleased to connect with you today.
Oh, me as well. And, it's so serendipitous how the universe kind of presents things. And, like I was sharing me with my cold, but I know that you've gone through some rather interesting things yourself personally. And, why don't you share with the audience a little bit about that?
You mean the most recent thing that?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we could get into
So,
the other one too.
well, it was an interesting process because I'm a storyteller as well as a storytelling coach and a qigong teacher. But I had told a story recently at a storytelling festival, and part of it was I had been dealing with some vertigo, and I was talking. The theme of the storytelling was temptation, and so I decided to do the temptation of self doubt and fear to derail us. And in that
Ooh.
story, I was telling this story. Told a bunch of stories, sort of linking, on this theme. And I did a little thing about what if, like, what if, because I had this little bit of vertigo. So what if I can't work anymore? What if I don't have any more money? What if, all these what ifs? And about 2 weeks after that, I was going up my back stairs of my home, carrying stuff in my arms, both of my arms, and I had a little bit of vertigo just as I was reaching the top of the
Mm.
stairs. And it's a very steep staircase, and I fell backwards and down the stairs to a concrete floor. And and I broke my arm and the two bones in my arm and my wrist. And when I hit the floor, actually nothing else broke or got damaged. I didn't even get bruised anywhere else. It's really kind of fascinating to me, but it all went into my left hand, which is my dominant side. But before
Oh.
the pain hit, the first thought that came to me was like, oops, time to receive. Because I'd really been grinding and grinding and grinding, like really putting things out and working really hard. And, it was all good work and stuff, but I was tired. And I was just like, not going to pay attention. I need to do this. I need to get that done. I was just really in my type A worst self, and getting stuff done. And it's been a really amazing process since that message happened, and then immediately after that, that pain hit, and I went into, to be
Oh.
frank, to be total terror because I am the breadwinner in my family. It was like I looked at my arm, and my wrist was a couple inches lower than my hand, and it was like I freaked.
Ay.
Yeah, I mean, I was really terrified. And then the whole process of emergency room surgery, all of the different things that
Mm.
happened after that. But some of my friends got together and they said, we don't want to see you grinding during this time. They did a GoFundMe. There was enough money then for me to not even have to think about that for the month or how I was going to pay for the ambulance and all. It was like these things kept unrolling where I was getting support, and that kind of financial support, but then support from people sending Reiki long distance,
Mhm.
or asking permission to do, a Feldenkrais session with me, or all these different offers, where I was all of a sudden realizing that resources don't have to just come from I got this intellectually, but in my heart, feeling resources
Mhm.
didn't have to just come from me.
That's huge. That's very profound. I
It
mean,
really has been. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, how many times do we not trust the universe? And we think we're like the Lone Ranger and we have to do it all ourselves. I mean, it's just craziness.
It is. It is. And I think we live in a culture that perpetuates that somehow we are supposed to be that way. It's
Yeah.
very, and it's like I said, I've been doing, spiritual practice and, meditation, all kinds of stuff for most of my life. And so I get a lot of these things, but there's a way in which, to really embody what does it mean to be present with these
Hmm.
things that are setbacks. There's that, I don't know if you're familiar with that wonderful Taoist story about the farmer and his horse.
No, but please share it.
It travels around the internet a fair amount, I think. But so this farmer, his horse dies, and all his neighbors come around and go, "Oh no, I'm so sorry. That's awful." And he said, "Well, maybe, maybe not." And then his son comes home and has this beautiful stallion that just gets found, that just came up to him and becomes part of their farm. And all the neighbors come around. Oh, you're so fortunate, so lucky that this horse came. And he says, well, maybe, maybe not. And then the son is riding the horse, doing some of the field work, and the horse bucks him and throws him, and he breaks his leg. And the neighbors, oh, that's just awful, your son, the main worker in your field, oh, how awful, he's now, he can't work. And the farmer said, well, maybe, maybe not. And then the army comes and conscripts all the young men to take them to the army, but the son
Yeah.
doesn't have to go. So it's like that kind of story of like,
Mhm.
how what is the story we're telling ourselves about the narrative that we're living in. um,
Oh, so true.
yeah.
And I always tell people, and I always, have embraced this. It's like when stuff happens, I tell people you're getting upgraded
Yes.
because we are.
Yeah.
It's not like all gloom and doom. That's our first reaction and perception of it. But sometimes, this is the best thing that could have happened because of all the other possibilities that follow through after that.
Well, it certainly gives us an opportunity to rethink, right? When we're pulled into that contraction place of that, to rethink, what am I doing and what do I want? What do I really? It's for me, it's a time of reevaluation. You said that you've been dealing with a cold. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know what kind of thing has that been for you?
Oh, it's been an interesting thing because I had traveled back east to visit family, and then of course on a flight, I didn't wear a mask, which I really think I really should have because 3 days later, here I am with a head cold. And that's my bad. And I know better. But that's okay. And it's really been interesting because I've really had to reel myself back and just be and just allow. And sometimes it's very interesting when you're sitting with yourself and all of a sudden you go into, like, I want to say, you react into fear mode. It's react. It's not like you're purposely going there, you just react. And I'm like, okay, what is this all about? And you know what, actually it's worked out really well. It's allowing me to be more present physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually within myself, and really paying attention to what I need to do. And I actually feel really good today because in the last couple hours, I did a bunch of stuff that I had to do on my to-do list, and it just got done like that. So, it's all good.
It's so interesting, isn't it, Dolores? I mean, and then there's this fine balance between, that pick yourself up by the bootstraps, grit your way through, just keep going, which is one attitude that a lot of
Yeah.
people have around setbacks. And then the other is, how do we balance, being able to let things flow? I feel like I can do this. I can get these things checked off of my to-do list, let them flow, but without any of that gritting and grinding.
Yeah.
I think it's really, and to kind of have that balance of like, what is self-care, and how do I really listen inside What is it that's, this sort of pressure that's coming from whatever our internal story is about what you need to get done. It's just such a fine balance, and really does, I think you use the word presence. And that's a big one for me, of how to really be present with what is here right now.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? We're all works in progress. It's not like a one and done thing. It's just like, it's like layers upon layers of the same thing, but I call it themes and variations of like and it's just like, okay, well, we got one aspect of it. Now we're getting a different aspect of it. And it's not a good thing or bad thing. It's just what it is, and just allowing it to be as it is. And I feel that for a lot of people, that's a real challenge. And I'm sure you come across that as well, too.
Oh yes, again and again, both in myself and in my clients. I mean, that's part of the work that I like to do with people is how do we bring ourselves back, not just to presence. So my work, I call your power presence, because I'm looking at how. I mean, it's a kind of a wide range. My clients cover a wide range of people, everyone from lawyers and who argue in front of the Supreme Court, all the way to people dealing with family issues, to entrepreneurs who go on stage to speak and tell their story to leverage their business, all that kind of thing. But what sort of thing that boils it all down to is, what is the energy behind our communication? How do we communicate from a place that's open-hearted, non-defensive, whether it's with somebody else or with our own internal voices? That's been a passion of mine forever, of like, how do we reframe our story, and what is it that we can do that's truly honest? It's not like slapping a smile and having a positive attitude no matter what. It's not that. It's really about, how do we really stay present with what is, and really look for, like you were talking about, what the lesson is, but also how do we convey that in a way that's the most compassionate and honest at the same time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And, it's interesting because it's always in the delivery. You know what I'm saying? You could say things 20 different ways and deliver it 20 different ways, and it'll be taken 20 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me,
I think you could do it one way and it could be taken 20 different ways.
That too. I mean, it's like, it depends on, everybody has their own little filters of how they're perceiving that. And, I've always found too, and I think you and I could agree on this, Vicki, is that sometimes the most difficult conversations I've just had to drop into my heart space and speak from that space. And it seems like whatever comes out, and sometimes it's unscripted, it's always the right thing, and it's the right intonation, and it's just the correct thing to do. And it really, for me, that's been a game changer.
Speaking from the heart it's an art form, really. I think it's and it's not a script or a formula, but how do you speak from your heart with there's this concept in Qigong. So I'm a Qigong teacher, which is Chinese martial art for healing, for any of your listeners who haven't heard of it. And working with energy that acupuncture or acupressure work on, but through movement and breath and intention. And there's a concept in Qigong of the cobra and the lamb, which I always really love when I think about speaking from the heart, because the heart in this case has to do with two different aspects of the heart. One has to do with our passion, which is the cobra. So if you think of a cobra with its hood spread, and it's really focusing really hard, is our passion, our conviction, the things that really matter to us. And then the lamb is that reciprocity, that part of connecting through love, through that sense of what are we giving and receiving, that exchange that can happen among us, and to really be able to balance the sort of that yin of the lamb and the yang of the heart. When we're speaking, because a lot of times I find when people want to speak from the heart, a lot of times what they do is they end up hiding part of their truth, right? Because they don't want to be too harsh, or they want to be really honest, and then they end up being really harsh and making the other person defensive, or somehow taking down a rabbit hole. So that's why I think of it as kind of an art form of how do we.
Do you think there's more an intuitive aspect to it as well when you do speak from your heart? It's like your intuition is like, you're tapped into that?
I do. I think that intuition's a big part of it. And the thing that I love to back up intuition with is questions about my assumptions. So
Yeah.
sometimes I can even, in the best intentions in my heart, can still have an assumption that's incorrect. So I always like to ask. So if I have an assumption, oh, you're really thinking this, then I'll ask, are you thinking this? Is that to kind of find out if my
Yeah.
intuition is actually, my intuition is usually pretty accurate. And I think
Yeah.
many people's
All
are.
of ours are. That's the thing. It's just like,
Right.
yeah.
But to always check it out is,
Yeah.
for me, the most respectful way to use intuition,
Oh,
especially in a
absolutely. Yeah.
conflict.
Yeah. Or, the thing also is I always say, I notice this, I'm feeling this. Help me understand why X, Y,
Mhm.
and Z that
Yeah.
and so it really opens the door a lot of times for sometimes very difficult conversations.
Yes.
It's very, very interesting, but it's also about just speaking your truth too
It's so
and
true.
being comfortable with that aspect because many
Yeah.
of us aren't. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all works in progress with that. We've
Right.
been blindsided or, battered or burnt at the stake in another lifetime because we
Right.
spoke our truth. But
Right.
this is part of our sovereign right as a human being is to step into our personal power and stuff. But,
Well, and that's where we achieve true connection, right? So
yeah.
we're hardwired to connect and to belong, and so that's when we could. I mean, I feel like when we're defensive, or when we're sort of trying to navigate something, that there's a way in which we're still not there, right? There's still no there. But when we can really find that way, that art form of being able to be present, and like you said, I love this idea of sort of like I'm feeling this and I'm not sure why. And can you help me understand what this sense might be, that you're all of a sudden opening a door as opposed to projecting or forcing
Mhm.
something.
And boy, I'll tell you, there's so much projection going on these
Right?
days. Oh my
Right.
gosh. And it's just, when you get to the point where you're able to be fully present in your body and in the present moment, you could tell when it's a projection versus not. It's very interesting. That discernment piece is really amped up and you're very much aware. So being present is a great tool and a great possibility and a great thing to experience because it just opens a whole different another aspect of yourself.
What are your favorite ways of sort of recognizing when you're kind of floating off into something else, and then you realize you need to pull yourself back together?
It's just like that's an easy thing. It's just like sometimes when you get triggered by something, I have to pull myself back. I said, okay, you know what? This is really getting me a little, annoyed. How, I just have to pull myself back and ask, why is that so? Because usually it's something within myself that is experiencing this, whatever. And it may not be that particular thing. It may be something way deeper than, that's from another time and place, but it's
Right,
still
your neural pathways
running.
are
It's
connecting.
right. It's like
Yeah.
running the show, and I'm like, okay, you know what? So sometimes when you breathe into it, and then I asked myself, I said, okay, what is this all about? And sometimes with that, when you're fully present, and you could pull yourself back, you get the aha moment, and you realize, okay, I could choose something different.
I love that. And for me, what I like to do, just to kind of piggyback on that, my way to get there. So sometimes, like if I, when you hit a certain place of feeling defensive or irritated, it's hard to pull back. And when I notice like I'm starting to clench in my belly, or I'm starting to feel my shoulders coming forward, is to focus on my breath, right? Which is such a cliche, right? Am I breathing?
Yep.
I focus on my breath, and then to do something in Qigong I call standing tall, where you're just basically lifting the crown of your head and grounding through your sits bones. And that allows, it's not only that it's good posture, and we all know good posture is a good thing, but that it actually allows energy to flow up and down through your spine, which opens up space for that possibility thinking that can happen, that can then go into that place of curiosity of like, what's going on here? Why am I feeling like I want to, shake this person, or I want to
Yeah.
prove something to this person, or whatever that inner
And
thought
that's,
is. So
and I'm going to piggyback on what you said. The breath is so important because so many of us don't take deep breaths. And when you take a deep breath, you are grounding yourself in your body. When you take a shallow breath, you're not in your body at all. So, and what I know is that when you are taking a deep breath and you are in your physical body, you're in the present moment.
Yeah, I call it
That's
going
me.
south of neck. Going
Yeah,
south of
it
neck.
is south and neck, it's just like, and you know what, it's like for me, and those of us who see energy, it's just like, I see a lot of talking heads sometimes. It's all the energy up here, and it's just like, okay, where's the rest of it? And for those people who know me, it's like I spend a lot of my time in the surgical arena. So when patients undergo anesthesia before their surgical procedure, I like to stand by their feet and just grab their feet and pull their energy down into their body because they are not in their body
Mm,
at all.
that's
And
so powerful. Having
yeah,
just had surgery, I would have loved to have had you.
yeah, because the thing
I had to
is
do it myself.
yeah, I know, but the thing is they're not in their body. I could
Yeah,
see it. It was just like
yeah. Well, it's
just standing
scary.
there and touching it and just pulling them down and trying to, communicate with them and stuff like that. And it does work and
Yeah.
it helps.
Oh, yeah,
Really.
yeah. I think you're the patients that you get to work with are very, very blessed to have you with have that kind of knowledge.
Thank you. So Vicki, this was like a great talk. Thank you so much for, sharing those insights and bouncing ideas, back and forth because I know we're both on the same page with this. And it is so true. We are more than what we could physically see. And, I think as time progresses, we're going to witness more and more of this opening up and being more readily available and accepted.
Mhm.
So, what is the best way for our audience to contact you? I have your contact information in the ticker below our pictures here. It's Vicki Dello Joio.com and your powerpresence.com. Tell me about your powerpresence.com. What is that?
So your powerpresence.com is a great way to connect with me because if you go there, there's a free gift that I have that is really geared towards speakers. So a lot of the work that I do are with people who are speaking either from a stage or wanting to communicate, like I said, even one-on-one with in maybe high stakes type of situation with referral partners or clients or whatever. So if you download that, that's a guide that I wrote recently that I'm actually pretty proud of. I think that the feedback I've been getting has been that really outstanding, that it's really been helping people because it not just talks about um, presentation skills per se, but it's really talking about the energy behind it all and how to
Oh,
access it.
yeah.
And it's got some very specific exercises of how to
Cool.
get embodied, particularly when you start to feel like you're dissociating for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So there's some good skills in there. And through that, you can also just access me for, to be able to connect with me directly, either through email or have a conversation with me. All of those options are there. So that's the best place to reach me. If you want to read more about all the types of work that I do and my performing and my coaching and all that stuff, you can go to myname.com. But otherwise, your powerpresence.com is a very simple page to be able to also be able to get a gift that I'd love to offer to folks.
Thank you, Vicki. And just your last parting words for the audience. What would you like them to know?
Um, maybe not, to be able to really allow yourself to be in the moment is one of the biggest gifts that you can give yourself, even when those times when it feels like challenging, because I believe that joy, my system I call the way of joy, and that's because I believe that joy is a fuel and that we can access it at any time. It's our birthright. We're born with joy, and then it gets rubbed away through various types of problems that we encounter as we get older, but that there's a way in which a baby is able to fully embrace life. That's my message, is that joy is a birthright. We owe it to ourselves to remember that. And part of that is, like we've been talking about, coming back to that present moment.
Thank you. Great words of wisdom. And so thank you, Vicki, for being part of our talk this morning. This was an awesome conversation. And I just want to thank our audience too for coming on board. And if you like what you see here, I invite you to connect with us on YouTube. And I'm going to put up the little sticker here and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Dr. Fazzino. It's called Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible. And lastly, if you are one of those people with those monkey minds and you're having problems being in the present moment, I've got something for you. It's a free guided meditation that I put together. It's about 5 minutes. You could afford to do 5 minutes. You owe it to yourself every day. And it's a free video meditation. And you go to drdoloresfazzino.com/free-video. And it's a guided meditation to be in the present moment. So thank you, everybody, for being on board. And stay tuned next week for another episode of Healing in Ways You Never Thought Possible. Bye now.